In this meeting, we want to, by the grace of God, see how the grace of God can bring a man, can bring the church of God out of the sitting position or sitting condition and bring that deliverance and salvation to such a gathering or to such a congregation or to such an individual. So today's meeting, I've titled it, Rise Up and Walk. Rise Up and Walk. But first, let me read Amos chapter 6. Amos chapter 6. Amos is after Hosea. After Hosea, you have Joel. And then after Joel, you have Amos. Amos chapter 6. I'll just read the first 6 verses. Amos chapter 6. Woe to you who are at ease in Zion and trust in Mount Samaria, notable persons in the chief nation, to whom the house of Israel comes. Go over to Calneh and see, and from there go to Hamath the great, then go down to Gath of the Philistines. Are you better than these kingdoms? Or is their territory greater than your territory? Woe to you who put far off the day of doom, who cause the seat of violence to come near, who lie on beds of ivory, stretch out on your couches, eat lambs from the flock and calves from the midst of the stall. He's speaking here of people who are comfortable, people who have taken their ease, people who are reclined, sitting down, not caring that their situation is horrible, like the Laodicean church that was comfortable, being lukewarm, thinking that they are okay, not knowing their true state of misery, of wretchedness, of poverty, spiritual poverty, of blindness, and of nakedness. In verse 5, it says, who sing idly to the sound of stringed instruments and invent for yourselves musical instruments like David, who drink wine from bowls and anoint yourselves with the best ointment, but are not grieved for the affliction of Joseph. How can we be so comfortable in the midst of the kind of pandemic that we're experiencing now? How can we be so laid back in the midst of the iniquity that we find in the world? How can we be so supportive of people who are against God, whilst we who claim to be for God are surrounding them, when we know that many of the things they're doing, and we know by scripture that whatever it is they are doing is contrary to God? How can we do such a thing? It is because we are at ease in Zion. It is because we are now sitting in strange couches. It's because we are sitting at the gate outside the temple. 1 Samuel chapter 3. 1 Samuel chapter 3. And I'm going to read the first 10 verses of 1 Samuel chapter 3. This was the condition that was in Israel at the time God called Samuel. When you read some of these things, you find similar conditions today. 1 Samuel chapter 3 from verse 1. Now, the boy Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no widespread revelation. The first thing we notice that there was a boy who was ministering. A boy who we will see more about that boy. A boy who had no knowledge of God, but he was there ministering. There are many boys, many Yobs, as it were, ministering today. That's why we have the kind of rascality that we experience in many of our churches. It says the word of the Lord was rare in those days. The word of the Lord is rare right now. It's rare to find the truth from the pulpit. It says, and there was no widespread revelation. And that's the truth. There's no widespread revelation. If a few smart things here and there, fine. But True proper revelation, very rare. Very, very rare. And it came to pass at that time that Eli was lying down at his place, in his place. Like many pastors we are now so obese. We are just laid back. And because we now have prosperity, as it were, in our version of prosperity. We are now doing okay, our own version of doing okay. And so it doesn't matter. When we want to preach, we just pick a few sermons and then preach. We don't even go to God in prayer and ask what we should say. We are now okay. We are comfortable. We are in a place where we can speak as we like. And when his eyes had begun to grow so dim that he could not see. We are having visionless leaders. Leaders who are not seeing what God is showing. They don't have the sight of God. They have their own sight. And it's so dim, they can't even tell that they're already dim. And before the lamp of God went out in the tabernacle of the Lord, and the ark of God was, and where the ark of God was, and while Samuel was lying down, that the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, "Here I am." So he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." And he said, "I did not call, lie down again." And he went and lay down. Then the Lord called yet again, "Samuel." So Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." He answered, "I did not call, my son, lie down again." Now Samuel, this is the boy we're talking of now, Samuel did not yet know the Lord, nor was the word of the Lord yet revealed to him, but he was ministering. There are many people who are in ministry today who don't know the Lord. The word of the Lord has not been revealed to them, but they are ministering. Boys in ministry. We see them, life-size posters all over the place. They don't even know the one whom they claim had called them into ministry. So when he's speaking, they run to their mentors. They run to their general overseers. They run to their pastors. They have no personal relationship with God. In verse 8, and the Lord called Samuel again the third time. So he arose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you did call me." Then Eli perceived that the Lord had called the boy. Things were so bad that Eli could not perceive from the first, the second, until the third one, that he perceived that this is God calling this boy. Therefore, Eli said to Samuel, "Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he calls you, that you must say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant hears.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Now the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel answered, "Speak, for your servant hears." We are at crossroads. And if we are going to rise up and walk, there are certain things that we observe in our text in Acts chapter 3 that we must understand and find its application for ourselves. God was so intent on speaking to Samuel that he called him 4 times, as long as it would take actually for Samuel to realize that it was not Eli calling him. It was not the general overseer calling him. It was not the bishop calling him. It was not the church cardinals calling him. It was God. He was ready to take as long as it would take to get to that place. We must get to the place where we know who is calling us.